In a college dorm, a resident assistant is part counselor, part cop, and part older sibling. Mike Morfield, an RA at the University of Arizona, has witnessed all the excitement, the hijinks, and the conflicts of college. And as any good RA would, he has some tips for incoming students.
It's like somebody runs along with a pin right after high school, pops your bubble, picks you up, throws you naked in some college, and you got to figure it out. And that's the college education, is what you learn to get on your feet and to succeed and to motivate yourself. And when you come here, it's such a release of, wait, what's my curfew? Which is a question I get asked as an RA all the time, and you're like, you don't have one. And I mean, you just see these sparks just go off in people's heads. You know, it's like watching the 4th of July half the time. We're like, so I don't have to eat at 6 o'clock if I don't want to? No, you can eat whenever you want. And everybody's like, oh, really? You know, when I was a freshman, I was like, I can eat 6 times a day if I want. I can have pizza at 4 in the morning. You know, you beep, boop, boop. You call up Domino's and you're like, I want a large pepperoni pizza. Sir, it's 2 in the morning. Yes, it is. And I want a large pepperoni pizza. It's...
And also, nobody's taking attendance.
Nobody's taking attendance. And that's really scary. That's still a problem, and I'm a junior. It's self-motivation as a freshman is probably the greatest skill you can learn, because there is nobody holding your hands, and there is nobody forcing you to go to class. I mean, yeah, when you're at home, your parents wake you up, they say you have to go to class, you go to class, class, go home. Here, you can sleep until 10, wake up, go to a class at 10:30, go back, take a nap, sleep through your noon class, you know, and keep sleeping through class. And you'll get into a vicious cycle that if you're not self-motivated enough, which I was not my first semester of my freshman year, and that was a wonderful bite of reality that I received. To be an RA, you have to be very passionate about what you do, and you have to be an enthusiastic person, you have to be outgoing, and you have to be extroverted, and that really usually fits in with being a super fan, you know, because you're going to be at the games screaming, and you're going to be, you know, you're going to be yelling for whatever happens, and you're going to be really passionate about going to all the games. Same thing as being an RA, is that, you know, when your residents come home and they had a bad day, you got to be like, it's okay, man, you know, we're going to make it through this, or, you know, if they're, you know, family problems, you got to be really passionate, you got to really involve yourself. They kind of go hand in, I mean, you're like a fan of your residents in a big aspect.
So you're a cheerleader for your resident? Yeah. Are you kind of a counselor?
I've been trying to define what an RA is for the longest time, because sometimes you're like, well, we're kind of like a parent, but you know, you don't want, that's not a name at all. That's not something we want to associate with RAs, but we want all the good things about being a parent, you know, that you can come to us whenever you need to, or day and night if you have a problem, you can come to us. And then you want to be like a cheerleader, and you want to be always psyched, and you know, you want to be there with all the high points and always be there for the low points. And then when they come to you with problems, you want to be a counselor as well.
Are you part policeman?
Yeah, and that's the part of the job, but it's so small. And, you know, and that's not what people don't realize, that as an RA, you're not, I mean, I go on rounds all the time, and you don't always write somebody up every time by any means. It's usually, you know, it's all the little, you know, little things about being an RA that are always the biggest that come out. It's always, you know, it's always the small things, the negative things that come out in the media. Same things with the RAs is, oh, you're writing me up, and I heard you write up all these people. But I mean, statistically, as many times as I walk the building compared to how many times I write people up, it's small. But if you add up the amount of times that I've stopped and talked to people and their rooms are open, or, you know, made a joke with somebody in the front lobby because, you know, they've been bummed out about a test, or, you know, played football or catch with a resident, you know, it completely outweighs how many times I've had to document them or have a serious discussion about a problem.
Do you feel like a kind of a hypocrite? Here you used to break the rules yourself, and now you're the cop?
Yeah, but I think I feel like a hypocrite slightly, but it's the same reason that as a parent you'd feel like a hypocrite for doing something. But I'm saying that the best way is, because of the things that I've done, it makes me a better RA, because it would be hard being an RA that doesn't understand underage drinking, or doesn't understand 5-gallon water balloons or noise violations. Because I've been there, I understand it. And that helps me deal with the situation. I'm going to document it the exact same as any other RA would. But when I follow up with that person or when I talk to that person, I can say, look, I took the same risks you did, and I knew there were consequences. And, you know, let's call it 50-50 shot or 70-30 shot, and you got caught, and, you know, I didn't. But, you know, that's just a consequence you know that you're accepting. So.
You said zero tolerance.
Absolutely.
So if you catch somebody with alcohol, you write them up?
Absolutely. There's no leeway because that's state law. You know, quiet hours, yeah, there's a state law noise violation, but not 10 p.m. in a dorm. I mean, that's like 30 people to party at 2 a.m. Cops are going to bust you for being loud. But in a dorms, you can kind of be lenient on quiet hours, but it's state law. You don't, that's something you have to be very strict about. The funniest stories usually revolve around dating. Okay, some good ones. Here's a big tip. If you're going to college and you live in a dorm, do not date somebody who lives 6 doors down from you. If you want to make the biggest mistake ever, date somebody who sees you every 5 minutes, because they will know who's going in your room, who's coming out of your room, where you are, where you're going. And then, if you're not serious or if you're not really dating and you have somebody else over to your room, you just might not make it through the year.
This has happened?
They always happen.
Why does someone go to college? What's the purpose of college?
For me, the reason I go to college is because I am a sponge who loves to learn, who loves knowledge, who loves being, I think that the more knowledge you have, whether that's street smarts, college education, personal experience, the more knowledge you have, the more productive a member of society you are. And I want to be as productive of a member, I want to be as productive in society as possible.
Did you mean knowledge in your major, political science or classical music?
Anything. Knowledge is knowledge. Knowledge is what makes you a more productive person. Knowledge makes you want to learn more. The more you learn, the more you want to learn. Well, there's a certain amount of stars in this galaxy. Well, why? Well, then you're going to take another class and learn about astrophysics. Or, well, Bach was a certain influential musician in this period. Well, why? Well, then you're going to learn about that period. Knowledge, it'll drive you to just want to learn.
But knowing about Bach is not going to make you a better lawyer, is it?
Doesn't matter. Sometimes being, you know, look how many political science majors there are working in administrative offices, or look how many classical music majors there are teaching biology class. I mean, it's just having that. It's, you know, college is one of those things where it teaches you to think for yourself, and it teaches you to self-motivate, and it teaches you to think outside the box. And that's you know, even though it made you think outside the box to think about Bach, it's the fact that you learned how to think outside the box. It doesn't really matter what you were actually learning at the time.
I spoke with one student who said the best thing that happened to her in college was an identity crisis. She began doubting who she was.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely. We've been forced into this, you know, this is you know, a soapbox in some terms, that we've been forced to fit into a mold of this is high school, and you wake up at 7:40 and you go to class and you learn about science and politics and math, and you're a well-rounded human being, and there's jocks, and there's theater people, and there's, you know, there's the nerds that study, and, you know, and it's really hard to integrate all that when you're in high school, and you've been forced, you know, to take certain things and to be taught certain ways. And you get to college, and you're meeting people, you know, even in your region. You know, it's like my region was it's like an upper middle class neighborhood where we're all very similar people. You know, we live next to cookie cutter homes that are all the same. You go to college, and I've met somebody from, you know, I'm in a program where I'm going to classrooms with a girl from Iran and somebody from Africa. I didn't get that when I was in an upper middle class school. And all of a sudden you realize, wait, aren't we all the same person? Aren't we all the same idea? Don't we all have the same viewpoints? And, you know, it's like forcing all this information into a computer and then saying, all right, do a program right now. It's not going to happen. Your mind just stops. and it has to restart. And it takes in all this information that you had, and you're like, all right, maybe this isn't the mold that I have to fit into. You know?
And this is a good thing?
It's a great thing. Because if we all didn't have an identity crisis, we'd all be the same person that we were when we were 12 years old.
Mike Morfield graduated from the University of Arizona in May 2006 with a BA in political science.